The wind screamed across the frozen surface of Talos 9, a lonely mining moon lost in the outer rim of human space. The sky was a sheet of gray and silver dust, and every gust of ice felt like knives cutting through the metal walls of the outpost. Inside the old listening station, Lieutenant Elias Carter sat alone at the control desk. The monitors flickered with static. A single heater hummed in the corner, struggling to push back the cold. He had been here for 6 months, watching empty skies, scanning empty channels, and waiting for orders that never came. The war between humanity and the Kether Dominion had ended 2 years ago. At least that's what the report said. But out here, far from the core worlds, no one was sure. There were still ghosts in the dark, rogue ships, broken signals, and sometimes screams in the static. Elias didn't believe in ghosts, but he did believe in silence. Silence meant survival. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his tired eyes. The clock showed 23:47, another quiet night. Or so he thought. Then the alarm blared. A red light flashed above the door and the sensor display came alive. Movement. Out there. Something was walking toward the outpost, slow, heavy steps cutting through the storm like a shadow made of metal. Elias froze. There were no human patrols scheduled for weeks, and the storms outside would kill anyone without proper protection. He grabbed his sidearm, a small pulse pistol, and moved toward the airlock. The motion tracker blinked faster now, 50 meters, 30, 10. Through the thick glass, he saw it. A tall figure in dark battle armor, glowing faintly with blue energy lines. The symbol on its chest, a sharp silver crescent, made his stomach twist. Ketheri armor. He hadn't seen that symbol since the war. The Kether Dominion, humanity's deadliest enemy, the same species that had burned colonies, destroyed fleets, and nearly wiped Earth's outer settlements. The figure stumbled forward, then fell to one knee in the snow. For a moment, Elias considered locking the door and letting the storm take it, but then the figure raised its head. The helmet visor flickered, revealing 2 glowing golden eyes filled with pain, not rage. And a faint voice crackled through the comm channel. "Please, open the door." It was a woman's voice, weak, desperate. Elias hesitated. This could be a trap, a trick, a captured human voice. But something in that tone didn't sound like a soldier. It sounded like someone running from death. He pressed the emergency override. The airlock hissed and opened. The figure collapsed onto the floor as the door sealed behind her. Steam rose from the armor as temperature equalized. Elias stepped back, keeping his weapon raised. "Stay still," he ordered. "Remove your helmet." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armor hissed open with a soft click and the helmet fell away. Beneath it was a Ketheri female, her skin pale blue with faint silver veins glowing under the surface. Her breathing was ragged and a deep wound ran across her shoulder. She looked up at Elias with tired eyes and whispered, "I'm not your enemy." Elias didn't answer. His hand trembled slightly, but he didn't lower the pistol. "You're Ketheri," he said coldly. "You shouldn't even be here." The alien woman nodded weakly. "I know, but I had nowhere else to go." Then, with shaking hands, she reached for the latches on her armor. One by one, she released them. The heavy plates fell to the floor with a metallic thud, echoing through the room. When the last piece dropped, she looked at him again and said quietly, "I'm not leaving tonight." Elias stood in silence. The storm outside howled louder, shaking the walls. He could throw her back out. It would be easy, but something about the way she said those words made him pause. There was no arrogance, no command, just exhaustion and truth. He finally lowered his weapon a little. "You're injured," he said. "Sit down," she obeyed without argument. Elias fetched the medkit from the wall. He had treated his own wounds before, but never one of them. Ketheri blood shimmered like liquid mercury as he cleaned the cut. It hissed slightly when it met the antiseptic foam. "What's your name?" Elias asked quietly. "Sarah," she replied after a pause. "Sarah Vey." He nodded once. "I'm Elias." Silence filled the room again, thick and heavy, broken only by the distant roar of the storm. Sarah's eyes wandered around the outpost. The place was small and bare. 1 bunk, 1 table, a few monitors, and walls covered in frost. "You live here alone?" she asked softly. "Someone has to watch the signals," Elias said. "Make sure the war really is over." She smiled faintly, though pain flickered behind it. "The war is never really over," she whispered. Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" But Sarah didn't answer. Her head dropped slightly as if the weight of memory was too much. After a long pause, she said, "They told us humans were monsters, that you destroyed without mercy. But you opened your door to me." Elias gave a bitter laugh. "Don't thank me yet. I might still throw you out." Sarah looked up, meeting his eyes. "If you were like the stories said, I would already be dead." Elias didn't respond. He taped the bandage around her shoulder and stood up. "You can rest in the corner." "I'll keep my gun close, I understand," Sarah said quietly. She leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. "You don't trust me." "You shouldn't." Elias walked back to his console. The sensors were picking up strange signals, static bursts coming from the outer rim. They didn't match any known human or Kithari code. He frowned. "Did anyone follow you here?" Sarah's eyes opened sharply. "No, I made sure of that." "Then what are these?" Elias pointed at the screen. 3 unknown contacts closing fast." Sarah's face went pale. "Not Kithari," she whispered. "Not human either." Elias turned to her. "Then what?" She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. "Something we both should be afraid of." Before he could ask more, the base trembled. A deep, distant sound rolled through the ice. The radar flashed red, massive objects entering low orbit. Sarah tried to stand, but her body was too weak. "They found me," she said. "They're coming. Who?" Elias demanded. Sarah looked at him with a mixture of guilt and fear. "I can't explain yet. Please, you have to trust me for tonight." Elias felt the weight of those words. Trust an enemy? Every part of him said no. But outside, something unknown was moving closer, and she looked truly terrified. He holstered his pistol. "Fine," he said. "For tonight." Sarah exhaled slowly, relief washing over her face. She leaned back, her eyes closing again. For a few minutes, the storm outside drowned all other sounds. The monitors flickered with more strange signals. The unknown ships, or whatever they were, hovered in the upper atmosphere. Elias sat down across from her, studying the alien woman who had just changed everything about his quiet existence. He didn't know why he had opened that door. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe compassion, or maybe because deep down, humans could never ignore a cry for help. But he knew one thing. Whatever was coming. He wasn't alone anymore. Outside, the storm began to fade, but the danger had only just begun. The morning sun of Talos 9 barely pierced the thick clouds of dust and ice. The storm had passed, but the world outside the outpost remained a frozen wasteland. Inside, the air smelled faintly of metal and antiseptic. Elias Carter sat at the console, watching the radar closely. The unknown ships had disappeared from immediate orbit, but the signals remained irregular, deliberate, and unlike anything he had ever seen. Beside him, Sarah Vey lay on the cot, her breathing steady now, though her body was still weak. She was covered with a thin blanket, the faint glow of her veins dimming as she rested. Elias watched her silently, remembering how the Kithari had once been humanity's fiercest enemy. Now she was simply a human in need, with a secret that could change everything. After a long pause, Elias finally spoke. "You said they found you. Who are they?" Sarah's eyes opened slowly. "Not Kithari, not human. Something else, old, dangerous, and without mercy. They hunt everything in this system that moves." Elias frowned. "Then why did you come here? Why risk everything?" She shifted slightly, wincing at the pain in her shoulder. "I didn't want anyone else to find it. I took something from my people. Something they never wanted humans to see. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could start another war, or end life in this system entirely." Elias leaned forward. "What is it?" Sarah hesitated. Her glowing eyes met his. "A core seed. A small device. But it holds the ability to rewrite DNA. It could cure disease or destroy entire populations. I stole it because I could not allow my warlords to use it." Elias stared at her. "You mean you're a thief? And a traitor to your own people?" She nodded faintly. "I am a deserter, but I am also the last hope that this system survives." The outpost trembled suddenly, faintly, as if the ground itself was warning them. Elias's gaze shot to the monitors. A new signal appeared, fast-moving, closing on Talos 9 from beyond the outer rim. "They're coming," Sarah whispered. "The others who want the seed. They won't stop for anyone." Elias's mind raced. He was a lone engineer, armed with little more than a sidearm and old machinery. Against an unknown enemy, he was outmatched. But he also knew something about humans. When cornered, they fought harder than anyone could imagine. He grabbed a portable weapon scanner and pointed it at Sarah's chest. "Where is it?" Sarah hesitated, then opened her hand. In her palm lay a small crystalline sphere, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Its light shimmered across the room, reflecting off the frost-covered walls. Elias reached for it, but she pulled back slightly. "Careful," she warned. "It's delicate." "And powerful," he nodded. "I'll be careful." The silence between them was broken by a sudden sharp noise, a metallic scraping outside the reinforced door. Elias grabbed his pistol. "They're here," he said. Sarah's face turned pale. "They know I'm here." "And they won't wait." The two of them moved quickly. Elias helped Sarah to her feet, supporting her as they went to the control room. Together, they monitored the approaching objects. On the screen, 3 large ships loomed, but something was strange. The shapes were irregular, jagged, unlike anything human or Cathari. "They are machines," Sarah said quietly. "Autonomous war machines. From the First War, decades ago, they were supposed to be deactivated. But someone or something reactivated them." Elias's stomach tightened. "We're outnumbered," Sarah nodded. "But not outmatched. Not if we use what we have," he frowned. "What do you mean?" "The outpost," she said, pointing at the metal walls and machinery. "It was built as a research and defense station. There are old weapon systems, traps. I can help you activate them." Elias swallowed. "I don't know if we can." "You have to," she said, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "I cannot do this alone." Together they worked quickly. Elias moved through the corridors, activating turrets and power systems. Sarah instructed him on the alien devices she could operate, calibrating energy fields and defense grids. The hum of machinery filled the air as the outpost came alive, transforming from a quiet listening post into a small fortress. Outside, the war machines were landing. Their metal legs scraped against the frozen surface, shaking the ground. Their sensors glowed red as they scanned the outpost, seeking the life signs of human and Cathari alike. Elias and Sarah took positions by the main control panel. The crystal pulsed in her hand. "This must not fall into their control," she said. "It can end everything if they touch it." Elias nodded. "Then we protect it together." For a moment a silence fell, a calm before the storm. Then the machines advanced. Energy beams cut across the snow, melting ice and throwing sparks into the air. The outpost shields flickered, struggling to hold. Elias fired his pulse pistol, aiming carefully. Sarah moved beside him, using Cathari technology to amplify their defenses. The combination of human ingenuity and Cathari precision began to take effect. The machines slowed, their sensors disrupted. One by one, the machines began to falter. Sparks flew from joints and control panels. Elias grinned briefly. "Looks like we're not done yet," he said. Sarah smiled faintly, though exhaustion showed in her eyes. "We still have a chance," she said. Then the warning alarm blared. A large shadow passed over the outpost. Elias looked up to see the largest machine yet. A towering figure, almost twice the height of the others, its surface black and jagged. Its glowing core pulsed with a threatening red light. "They've brought their leader," Sarah whispered. "This one. It cannot be stopped by normal weapons." Elias clenched his jaw. "Then we improvise." He began connecting the outpost's reactor to the defensive grid, creating a potential EMP pulse, a surge of energy that could disable the machines entirely. Sarah assisted, her knowledge of alien tech critical to stabilizing the connections. The energy readings climbed dangerously high. "It's risky," Elias said. "If this fails, it could destroy the entire station." "And us with it." Sarah looked at him steadily. "Then we make it work. Humanity always finds a way when cornered." The first beams of the leader machine hit the outer wall, shaking the station violently. The EMP generator was ready, but someone had to manually trigger it from inside the maintenance shaft. Elias hesitated, glancing at Sarah. "You go," he said. "You are faster, and the others are targeting me anyway." "No," she said firmly. "You're human. You survive longer under pressure. You're the one who must trigger it. I'll protect the crystal." Elias shook his head. "We do this together." For a tense moment, they stared at each other, two soldiers from opposite sides of a long war, now united by necessity and trust. Then with a deep breath, Elias descended into the shaft, pulling the EMP generator controls with trembling hands. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and the machinery hummed with dangerous energy. Sarah watched, her body braced against the wall, the crystal pulsing in her palm. The machines outside grew more aggressive, but their sensors faltered as the energy began to spike. Elias's hands shook. He could feel the reactor's energy building, the risk growing with every second, but he thought of Talos 9, of humanity, of the possibility of ending a war before it started again. And he thought of Sarah, the Cathari who had dropped her armor and trusted a human. Finally, with one last push, he activated the generator. A massive pulse of energy exploded outward, disabling the war machines instantly. Sparks flew, walls shook, and the entire station shuddered. Elias gritted his teeth, bracing himself for the blast. Outside, the war machines collapsed, powerless. The leader machine toppled, its glowing core darkening. Silence followed. Elias collapsed to the floor, exhausted but alive. Sarah rushed to him, checking him over. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved us. All of us." He looked at her, sweat and frost mixing on his face. "We did it," he corrected. "Together." For the first time in months, the outpost was quiet. Not because the storm was gone, but because the danger had passed. Elias and Sarah sat together, breathing heavily, watching the pale light of Talos 9. Sarah looked down at the crystal in her hand. "The seed is safe," she said softly. "For now," Elias nodded. "Then we survive tonight. Tomorrow we figure out the rest." And for the first time since the storm, they both felt hope. The sky above Talos 9 was still gray, but the horizon shimmered with the faint glow of dawn. The storm was gone, leaving only the frozen wasteland and the wreckage of the disabled war machines. Inside the outpost, Elias Carter and Sarah Vey worked quickly, assessing damage and securing the crystal. Elias rubbed his temples, exhaustion weighing heavily on him. "We survived the first wave," he said, voice low. "But I don't think that was the end." Sarah nodded. Her glowing blue skin shimmered faintly as she checked the outpost's sensors. "It's not. The machines were only a test. Something bigger is coming, older, stronger, and more dangerous." Before Elias could ask for details, the monitors flickered, and a massive shadow appeared over Talos 9. His stomach tightened. The silhouette was enormous. Ancient war machines from the earliest Cathari campaigns, now fully reactivated, descending in perfect formation. Their red sensors glowed ominously, scanning for any life forms, human or alien. "They're not stopping," Elias said grimly. "And if they land, we're finished." Sarah placed the crystal carefully into a secure containment pod. "Then we have to fight smarter, not harder," she said. "We can use the outpost's reactor as a weapon, a massive EMP blast. It will destroy all of them in one strike." Elias's eyes widened. "That could kill us too." Sarah's gaze met his. "Yes, but it will save thousands of lives. You humans always do the right thing when no one is watching." Elias swallowed hard. He had lived through wars, storms, and isolation, but nothing prepared him for this. The weight of choice pressed on his chest. "Then we do it," he said. They moved through the outpost together, checking every system. Turrets hummed to life. Energy shields flickered, and the reactor thrummed with unstable power. Elias and Sarah worked as a seamless team, human intuition guiding technical controls, Cathari knowledge stabilizing alien systems. The combination was something neither species had done before. Outside, the machines landed with earth-shaking force. The tallest of them, the leader, turned its sensors toward the outpost, glowing red. It stepped forward, metal legs grinding against ice, crushing rocks beneath them. Elias could hear the deep mechanical whine, the echo of a war thought long ended. Sarah stepped beside him, placing a hand on his arm. "When the pulse fires, someone has to stay behind to manually trigger the reactor. We cannot risk the signal being interrupted." Elias shook his head. "No, we do this together." Sarah's glowing eyes softened. "You humans have something Cathari rarely see, courage mixed with hope. I trust you, Elias, and I will not abandon you." The first waves of the machines reached the outpost's perimeter. Laser fire cut across the ice, striking metal and snow, leaving scorched trails. Sparks flew as turrets opened fire, guided by Sarah's alien calculations. The machines faltered briefly, but they continued advancing, relentless as a glacier. Elias tightened his grip on the control panel. The reactor readings climbed dangerously high. Each second the energy swelled, the risk of explosion growing exponentially. Almost there, Sarah said, voice steady. Just a few more seconds. The leader machine reached the outer wall. Its glowing core emitted a pulse of energy, shaking the entire building. Metal bent, alarms blared, and the lights flickered. Elias's hands shook as he stabilized the reactor. He glanced at Sarah, who held the crystal tightly. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded. Yes, we can do this. Elias took a deep breath and descended into the maintenance shaft, the narrow metal tunnel vibrating with the energy surging through the outpost. The path was treacherous, frost-covered and slippery, but he moved with determination. Sarah stayed behind, monitoring the outer doors and shielding the crystal with her body. The machine struck again, metal claws raking the walls, sparks flying. The outpost shuddered. Elias reached the reactor controls, hands flying over the panels. Lights flashed red, orange, then green. The pulse generator was ready. He hesitated for a moment, thinking of Talos 9, of humanity, of Sarah, and of the countless lives at stake. Then, with a deep breath, he activated the generator. A massive wave of energy erupted from the reactor, sweeping outward in a brilliant pulse. The machines froze mid-step, their red sensors flickering. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and then silence. Outside, the machines collapsed like toppled towers. The leader machine crashed into the ice, its glowing core fading. Smoke rose into the sky, reflecting the pale light of Talos 9. The outpost trembled violently, and Elias was thrown to the floor of the shaft. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to remain still. Sarah rushed to him, eyes wide with worry. Elias, are you alive? He groaned, pushing himself up. Yeah, I think so. The floor beneath them shuddered one last time. The energy from the pulse had nearly destroyed the reactor, but it held. The machines were gone, their threat neutralized. For the first time in days, Talos 9 was silent, peaceful and still. Sarah held the crystal carefully, her glowing veins dimming as exhaustion overtook her. We did it, she whispered. Elias smiled weakly. We did. Together. For a long moment they stood side by side, surveying the frozen wasteland. The storm was gone, the machines destroyed, and the outpost had survived. But more than that, they had proven something fundamental. Humans and Ketheri, once enemies, could fight together, protect each other, and survive impossible odds. Sarah looked at him, her eyes reflecting gratitude and respect. Your people, humanity, you never give up. Even when everything is against you, that is remarkable. Elias shrugged, tired but proud. We fight for hope, for each other. That's what makes us human. Sarah smiled faintly. Then perhaps there is hope for all of us. Humans and Ketheri, together. The crystal pulsed softly in her hand. It was a symbol of trust, of sacrifice, and of new beginnings. The war between their species was not yet over, but for the first time there was a chance for peace. Elias and Sarah knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight they had survived. And in surviving, they had forged a bond stronger than the storms outside, stronger than the machines, stronger than war itself. The first light of dawn reflected off the ice, glinting across Talos 9 like the promise of a new day. Elias looked at Sarah. We should get some rest, he said. She nodded. Yes, tomorrow we plan. But tonight, we rest together. For a moment, the past, the war, the loss, the fear melted away. There was only the quiet, the cold, and the warmth of two beings from different worlds standing side by side. Survivors and friends, ready to face whatever the universe would throw at them next. And as the stars began to appear above the frozen horizon, Elias whispered to himself, we're not alone anymore. And maybe that's enough to change everything. The wind outside had calmed. The storm had passed. The outpost was quiet. But in that quiet, two unlikely allies had discovered something greater than survival. They had discovered trust, courage, and hope. And on Talos 9, for the first time in decades, the future looked bright.